Okay, welcome. Today we're focusing on a really common pediatric injury. You probably know what it is, nursemaid's elbow or pulled elbow.
Right, but for clinical clarity, we're talking about radial head subluxation, or sometimes called annular ligament displacement.
Exactly. So our goal here is a rapid, evidence-based look at what it is, how to spot it, and crucially, how to fix it quickly and effectively.
Precisely. High confidence in diagnosis, effective immediate treatment. That's the aim for busy clinicians.
All right, let's break it down anatomically. What's actually happening inside the elbow joint? Is it a full dislocation?
No, not a full dislocation. That's important. It's a partial dislocation, a subluxation.
Yeah.
What happens is the radial head, the top of the radius bone in the forearm, slips slightly out from under the annular ligament.
The annular ligament, that's the band holding it in place.
Exactly. It wraps around the radial head. In this injury, it slips. And then the ligament itself can actually get trapped, sort of pinched, between the radial head and the humerus bone of the upper arm in the radiohumeral joint.
Okay, so the ligament gets stuck.
Right, and that mechanical blockage is what causes the symptoms.
And why does this happen so much in little kids, specifically, not really in older children or adults?
Well, it really comes down to anatomy development. In young children, say under 5 or 6, that annular ligament is just relatively weaker and thinner compared to adults or even older kids.
So it's easier for the radial head to slip out.
Yes, exactly. Plus, the radial head itself isn't quite as developed. Its shape is a bit different, which also makes it easier for the slippage to occur under certain forces.
Okay, forces. Let's talk mechanism. How does this usually happen? Is it a fall?
Usually not a fall. The classic mechanism is a sudden pull along the length of the arm. Longitudinal traction.
A pull, okay.
And typically, this happens when the child's arm is straight extended and the hand is turned palm down, which is pronation.
Extended and pronated, got it.
That specific combination seems to make the radial head most vulnerable to slipping under that relatively weak ligament, even with, fairly minor pulling forces sometimes.
So knowing the mechanism, who are we typically seeing with this? What's the prime age group?
It's very concentrated in young children. Most commonly between 1 and 5 years old.
1 to 5, okay.
Yeah, and the absolute peak incidence seems to be right around 2.5 years old.
That makes sense. They're mobile walking, but maybe still getting lifted or pulled along sometimes.
Exactly. And like we said, it becomes pretty rare after age 6 or 7.
Why is that? Just everything tightens up?
Pretty much. The annular ligament gets stronger, thicker, and the radial head develops a more pronounced shape that helps lock it in place better. So if you do think you're seeing this in an older child, you should definitely pause and reconsider the diagnosis.
Okay. Are there any other risk factors, like boys versus girls, or anything else?
There are some slight trends we see in the data. Girls seem to be affected slightly more often than boys.
Interesting.
And also interesting, it happens more frequently in the left arm.
Left arm. Any idea why?
Not definitively clear, but often hypothesized it might relate to right-handed caregivers pulling with their dominant hand on the child's left arm. Just a theory, though.
Yeah.
There's also some suggestion that children who are heavier, say above the 75th percentile for weight, might have a slightly increased risk, maybe just more mechanical stress during those pulling incidents.
Right. So for educating parents, what are those common pulling incidents we should mention? What should they avoid?
Oh, definitely. The classic ones are lifting a child up quickly by one hand or wrist, maybe helping them over a curb or upstairs that way.
Okay, yeah, I can picture that.
Swinging a child by their arms or hands during play, that's a big one.
Right.
And even something seemingly small, like pulling an arm quickly through a tight sleeve of a jacket or shirt, can sometimes be enough to cause it if the angle and force are right.
So it's about avoiding that sudden yanking or pulling force on the extended arm.
Precisely. Need to be clear with caregivers about that specific mechanism.
Okay, so a child comes in, maybe the parent mentions a pull. How do we recognize this clinically, especially in a busy setting? What are the classic signs?
The presentation is often quite striking. The child will suddenly just refuse to use the affected arm completely.
Just won't move it at all.
Right. They typically hold it very still, usually slightly bent at the elbow, maybe 15, 20 degrees, and held close against their body, often against the abdomen.
Okay.
We call this pseudoparalysis. It looks like the arm is paralyzed, but there's no actual nerve damage. It's purely functional avoidance because of the trapped ligament.
Pseudoparalysis. And what don't we see? What helps rule out something like a fracture?
Crucially, you usually see no significant swelling, no bruising or discoloration, and no obvious deformity of the arm or elbow.
The lack of swelling is key then.
Very key.
Yeah.
If you see significant swelling or deformity, you need to think about other injuries, like a fracture.
And where does it hurt if you examine them?
The pain is quite specific. They usually don't have much pain if you just gently bend or straighten the elbow flexion or extension.
Yeah.
But they will typically have pain and resist if you try to rotate the forearm, meaning turning the palm up, supination, or palm down, pronation.
So rotation is the painful movement.
Exactly. That points right to the radiohumeral joint where the ligament is trapped. You might also find some tenderness if you gently press right over the radial head area on the outer side of the elbow.
So given that classic picture, the hystereal pull, the pseudoparalysis, holding the arm flexed and pronated, pain with rotation but not flexion extension, and no swelling, diagnosis is mainly clinical.
Yes, absolutely. Diagnosis is primarily clinical, based on that history and the physical exam findings.
What about differentials? What else could it be?
Well, the main concern, especially if the history isn't perfectly clear, is ruling out a fracture, like a supracondylar fracture or maybe a lateral condyle fracture.
Right.
But again, the absence of swelling, bruising, deformity, and severe pain with simple elbow bending strongly points away from a fracture and towards radial head subluxation. If those signs are present, then you have to investigate further.
Okay, so that leads to imaging. Do we need x-rays?
Not routinely, no. If the clinical picture is classic for nursemaid's elbow, x-rays are generally not needed.
So we can avoid the radiation and cost.
Correct. You'd reserve x-rays for cases where the mechanism of injury is unclear. Maybe there was a fall or direct trauma, or if you suspect a fracture because of swelling or deformity, or perhaps if your first attempt at reduction doesn't work.
Makes sense. Clinical diagnosis first.
Yes. History, pseudoparalysis, lack of swelling proceed to reduction.
All right, treatment. This is often satisfyingly quick, right?
Yeah.
What are the standard maneuvers?
Yes. It's usually immediate relief when successful. It involves a closed reduction maneuver done by a trained provider. There are two main techniques described.
Okay, what are they?
Technique 1 is hyperpronation. Technique 2 is supination-flexion.
Let's start with hypopronation. How does that work?
Okay, so for hyperpronation, you'd stabilize the elbow, then grasp the child's hand or wrist, and you firmly turn the hand, palm down, hyperpronate it, often, while also flexing the elbow slightly.
Forcefully palm down.
Right. The idea is this might relax the annular ligament enough for the radial head to pop back into place.
And the other one, supination-flexion.
That's maybe the more traditional method some were taught. Here, you stabilize the elbow, apply a bit of traction, turn the palm fully upward, supinate it, and then fully bend or flex the elbow.
Palm up, then bend.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is one better than the other? What does the evidence say?
Actually, yes. Current evidence suggests that the hyperpronation technique is generally superior.
Superior how? Faster? More successful?
Both, actually. Studies consistently show hyperpronation has a higher first attempt success rate. We're talking maybe up to 92% success on the first try with hyperpronation, compared to maybe closer to 83% for supination-flexion in some studies.
Wow, that's a significant difference.
It is. And perhaps more importantly for the child and parent, hyperpronation is also often reported as being less painful during the maneuver.
Less painful and more likely to work first time. Sounds like a clear winner.
Based on the current evidence, yes. Hyperpronation should probably be the first-line technique attempted.
Okay, so you do the maneuver. How do you know it worked? Do you always hear that click?
You often do feel or even hear a distinct click or pop as the ligament and radial head reduce. That's a very reassuring sign.
But not always.
Not always. The real confirmation is the child's behavior. Within a few seconds to minutes after a successful reduction, the child will typically spontaneously start using the arm again. They'll reach for a toy, extend the arm, stop guarding it.
So function returns almost immediately.
Exactly. Restoration of normal function is the definitive sign of success, whether you heard a pop or not.
Great. Now, last point, recurrence. Does this happen again often?
Unfortunately, yes. Recurrence is relatively common. The rates reported are around 20%.
1 in 5 kids might have it happen again.
Approximately, yes. And the highest risk period for that recurrence is fairly soon after the first event, usually within the first, say, 3 to 4 weeks.
Why then? Is the ligament still weak?
Exactly. The ligament tissue needs time to fully recover and tighten up after being stretched or slightly torn, so it's more vulnerable during that initial period.
So prevention advice is critical here, especially in those first few weeks.
Absolutely critical. And it needs to be very specific. Caregivers must understand they need to avoid any lifting, swinging, or pulling by the child's hands or wrists.
No matter how convenient it seems.
Correct. Emphasize safe lifting techniques, lifting under the armpits or supporting around the child's torso. It needs to be strict adherence, especially early on.
Got it. So, summarizing for the providers listening, radial head subluxation, it's very mechanism specific, usually that longitudinal pull. Diagnosis relies heavily on the clinical picture, that pseudoparalysis and lack of swelling are key differentiators.
Right, and this allows for rapid diagnosis, usually avoiding the need for x-rays. And for treatment, the key takeaway is that the hyperpronation technique appears to be more effective, higher success rate on the first try, and less painful for the child. So that should really be the go-to maneuver.